it's Sama. I just made a video for the Discord answering some questions and also went briefly into 81 GB range versus the 243 range. And now I just figured out there's a better way to explain how they interact with each other by having them side by side. As you know, my favorite one, GB range, is still the 243 for intraday trading. And I know some of you use entirely the 81 or just use it for redefining a possible entry. And for me, on the 243 range, as you know, the 71 is an important level for the algos to end or start. 65 in between those two, the breakers, and of course the high and the low. And if you're trading on the 81 GB range, you would look at the same points levels for a reaction, but of course it's on a different GB level since it's lower. And that's why it's fractal and it works no matter which GB range you are using. You would just spot looking for different levels. I usually don't really trade side by side those two GB ranges, but to show you a point how you could use it, or maybe figuring for yourself out which one you prefer to another. So on the left we have the 243 GB range on a 3-minute chart, and here the 81 GB range on the 1 minute. We are just 3 minutes before the opening, and on this range, on the 81 range, you would see all this liquidity down here. We just entered the 81 GB range. You have here hippos, so you might wanna think the price wants to go down here to take them all out, okay? And the external range of this would be on the 243 GB range, the 29 level, and another level, as vice versa to that one, is the 35 level, the non-GB level. So on both GB range, you would have close buy levels that you could imagine that price goes first when we open. Okay, all right. Now, as you can see here, we closed outside the GB range from the 81, and here we went into the fair value gap level, pretty much in the middle of it. So depending on the time frame, I mean also on the 3 minute, but there would be a clearer one on another time frame, you have the fair value gap. Okay, it would be here as well. So it just went into this, into that fair value gap level. Price went up, and now you might think, okay, where is price going next? All the way up here, just to the 65 level or this level. And if you trade the GB range, you would ask yourself similar question: do we go into the next range? Okay, because here we rejected on the 65 level and here on the high. So even though you don't have them side by side, as a 243 GB range user, I would see this, that we didn't go above the 65 level. I still would like to see maybe to touch the 71 level where algo starts and end. And you, on the other hand, maybe would like to see to run the external range. Okay. Now, trading on this range, I would say, okay, that's close enough. We went into this hippo, rejected from the, let's say, 71. You would see this one on your range, run the external high, and now maybe you would see a higher PDRA down here. That would make sense to you, that we are going down here, and vice versa. On this side, on a higher time frame, you could, for example, say, maybe that one, maybe there's a better one on a higher time frame. But just to get the point across, okay? And now here you would have hit your target. Price went once more above. On this range, maybe it went a little bit too fast. Let's go back. Oh no, that's just gonna mess it up probably. But here you entered another 81 GB range, right? And on the 243, you would see that we just maybe entered a higher PDRA, went to the low of the range, that we left those hippo, and on the 81 GB range, you would see this also on the 1 minute. I mean, you would see the same here on the 1 minute as well, but here we are on the 3 minute. You see those hippos. Let's go here on this, also on the 1 minute. And you might now think or be looking for a reversal. Okay. Let's see what's happened. Now, you see, here we went to the 41 level, and here on the external range. And that's why when I talk about the 243 GB range, I say, or Hoppy says, or the book says, whatever, on the 41, that's the breaker level. So from here, one possibility would be go down to the fair value gap, or the OT, and here you might be already done, 80 handles. That's why personally, if I manage to enter on the low, I take partials here, because this could just be a retracement, or it really could be a break. All right. Then it goes sideways, and that's the beauty, by the way, on days with not such big price moves, the 81 comes in handy, because you still might be able to manage catch a trade, while here on those levels probably wouldn't take a trade, while on this one you would see here to the tick that OB maybe would take one to the 71 level on the 81 GB range, which is the midpoint over here. But in both cases you have now hippo. Here you have unfilled range. So ideally price would go at least up here, taking out those equals high. Can you see? Here we went to the mid level, didn't quite take those out. High of the range. Now you might be wondering, maybe here you would see that pretty much mid level, not exactly, they turned down, but here we run the external range, price coming down again. Now here, price left, entered into a new range. Again, now we are close around the breaker level. We have hippos and the breaker level, which might make that we reverse, is here the 71 level. So you see, you can apply roughly the same logic no matter on which GB range you are, on fast days, trending days, and so on. 243 might be the easy way to trade, and if you have, but actually you should anyway probably avoid this kind of price action, but you still would be able to catch a trade on a lower GB range. And you could even trade, of course, the 729 range. And so don't get, actually the point I want to make is there is really no right or wrong GB range you could use. You just have to figure out for yourself which days you might choose which tool, what you feel more comfortable, also how long you might want to hold a trade, and so on. Because you see, if you go enter here, let's say you enter here a trade on a 243 GB range down here, and you see all this, and you have your stop loss at the external range, and you see all this chop. Maybe you might then exit at some point, but for yourself you still might assume that you want to see gold price to the high, while here, if you see once it hits the external range, you just might be happy and be done, or also don't really think price goes even higher, because it rejects the high here, goes down, so you might see this is it. Well, let's see if price does go to the high. Yeah, didn't quite make it within the regular trading hours. And again, that's actually a good example. Here you have the price goes sideways and going down and up. And then if you use the 243 GB range, you should be aware of the 65 level. It just hits it exactly, and maybe more obvious on the 81 GB range. We had like this liquidity building up here. It just ran it into the external range, and then price goes up. So you see, no matter which GB range you're using, if you understand the levels, you can frame your trades and price action. So decide for yourself, and maybe actually, maybe I like this to use in the future, to have those two ranges side by side. Never thought about that, because actually I feel comfortable with that one most of the time. And yeah, all right, hopefully it helps. If you have questions, post them in the comments or in Discord. All right, bye bye.